The cold steel beneath Cashin's fingertips sent a shock through his system as consciousness returned. His vision swam, the sterile white lights of the facility piercing his retinas like needles. The last thing he remembered was signing papers, something about voluntary participation in revolutionary research. Now, heavy restraints bit into his wrists and ankles. Subject 17 is regaining consciousness, a detached female voice announced. Cashin blinked, trying to focus on the figure approaching through the haze. As his vision cleared, he saw her, tall, with iridescent skin that seemed to shift colors in the harsh lighting. Her eyes were entirely black, pupilless voids that should have been terrifying but somehow weren't. "My name is Zava," she said, her accent strange and melodic. "How are you feeling?" "Like I've been hit by a truck," Cashin groaned, testing his restraints. "Where am I? What did you do to me?" Zava consulted a holographic display floating beside her head. "You are in the interspecies research facility. Your vitals are stabilizing nicely after the implantation procedure." Implantation? Cashin's heart rate spiked, setting off a chorus of beeps from nearby monitors. "What implantation?" "Please remain calm," Zava said, adjusting something on the display. "Your body has been enhanced with Etheric technology. It's part of the compatibility program you volunteered for." Cashin strained against his bonds. "I volunteered for research, not to become your lab rat." Zava's expression remained impassive as she approached with a medical scanner. "The terms were clearly outlined in your agreement. Now, I need to conduct a basic examination to ensure the integration is successful." As she ran the scanner over his body, Cashin felt something change. A sensation like warm liquid spreading through his veins, starting from his chest and flowing outward to his extremities. His muscles tensed involuntarily. "It's expanding." "What did you just do to me?" he gasped, panic rising in his throat. Zava's black eyes widened slightly, the first real emotion he'd seen from her. She quickly checked the readings on her device. "That's unexpected. Your cellular response is far beyond our projected parameters." The warmth intensified, becoming almost unbearable. Cashin's body arched off the table, straining against the restraints. Every nerve ending seemed to fire at once, overwhelming his senses. "Make it stop," he cried out. Zava's fingers flew across the holographic interface, but her usual composure was cracking. "This reaction isn't in any of our previous trials. Your body is somehow amplifying the nanite integration at an exponential rate." Through the haze of pain, Cashin noticed other figures rushing into the room. More Etheric scientists in white coats, their faces showing various degrees of alarm. They spoke rapidly in their language, too fast for the translation device in his ear to keep up. "What's happening to Subject 17? A stern voice cut through the chaos. An older Etheric male strode into view, his bearing radiating authority. "Dr. Zener," Zava said, straightening. "The subject is experiencing an unprecedented reaction to the compatibility protocol. His body is accepting the augmentation at a rate that exceeds all our models." Dr. Zener leaned over Cashin, studying him with clinical detachment. "Fascinating. Perhaps we've finally found the perfect candidate. Continue monitoring. I want updates every hour." As quickly as they'd appeared, the other scientists dispersed, leaving Zava alone with Cashin once more. The burning sensation began to subside, leaving him weak and trembling. "What are you people doing to me?" he whispered hoarsely. Zava hesitated, then moved closer. For a moment, he thought he saw something like concern in those bottomless black eyes. "The Etherics believe in unlocking humanity's potential. Your species has capabilities that our scientists wish to explore. Through experimentation, against our will." "You signed the consent forms," she reminded him, but her voice lacked conviction. "I didn't consent to this," Cashin spat. "Whatever you're doing, whatever you're trying to achieve, it's wrong." Zava turned away, busying herself with equipment. When she spoke again, her voice was barely audible. "Get some rest, Subject 17. Your journey has only just begun." As she left the room, Cashin was left alone with his thoughts and the lingering heat in his veins. Whatever they'd put inside him, it was changing him, and he had a feeling this was only the beginning. The next few days blurred together in a haze of tests and examinations. Cashin learned the layout of his cell, a sterile cube with transparent walls that turned opaque only when he used the basic facilities provided. Through the clear surfaces, he could see other containment units, other subjects in various states of modification. Some appeared normal, while others showed visible signs of transformation: scales, extra limbs, bioluminescent patches on their skin. The sight both fascinated and horrified him. Zava came daily, always professional, always distant. She ran her tests, noted his responses, and left without unnecessary conversation. But Cashin noticed things: the slight tremor in her hands when she drew blood samples, the way she'd linger for a moment after completing her tasks, as if wanting to say more. It was during one such visit that everything changed. "Your adaptability continues to exceed expectations," Zava said, reviewing her data. "Dr. Zener is very pleased with your progress." "Thrilled to hear it," Cashin replied sarcastically. He'd grown bolder in his captivity, testing boundaries. "What exactly am I progressing toward?" Zava ignored the question, focusing on her scanner. As she leaned in to take a reading, Cashin caught her scent, something alien yet strangely alluring. He felt that warmth stir within him again, different this time, more focused. "You're feeling it again, aren't you?" she asked, her voice soft. "The expansion. It's different now," Cashin admitted. "More controlled, like I can almost direct it." Zava's hand hovered over his arm, not quite touching. "Remarkable. Your body is adapting far faster than we anticipated. Why are you doing this?" Cashin asked suddenly. "You specifically. I've seen how the others treat their subjects, like animals. But you, there's something different about you." For a long moment, Zava didn't respond. When she did, her voice was barely above a whisper. "We're not all the same. Subject 17. Some of us question the methods, even if we believe in the goal." Before Cashin could press further, alarms blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed, and Zava's scanner erupted with warnings. "What's happening?" Cashin shouted over the din. Zava's fingers flew across her device. "Subject 23 is having a catastrophic rejection. The compatibility matrix is failing." She looked at Cashin with something like fear. This is what happens when the process goes wrong. Through the transparent walls, Cashin watched in horror as guards rushed toward another cell. Inside, a human figure writhed in agony, their body contorting impossibly. Sparks of energy crackled across their skin, and then, with a sound like tearing metal, the subject simply dissolved. "My God," Cashin breathed. Zava quickly sealed his cell, cutting off the view. "You weren't meant to see that. Is that going to happen to me?" Cashin demanded. "No," Zava said firmly. "Your integration is different. Perfect, even. That's why Dr. Zener is so interested in you. And what happens when he gets what he wants from me?" Zava didn't answer, but her silence spoke volumes. In the days that followed, Cashin noticed a shift in the facility's atmosphere. Security increased, and the tests became more aggressive. Dr. Zener personally oversaw many of his sessions, pushing Cashin's limits, measuring his responses to various stimuli. The warmth inside him had evolved into something more, a pulsing energy that responded to his emotions. When angry, it flared hot and bright. When calm, it settled into a steady hum. "You're learning to control it," Zava observed during one of their sessions. They were alone again, and she seemed more relaxed in the absence of her colleagues. "I don't have much choice, do I?" Cashin replied. "It's either learn to control it or end up like Subject 23. Zava flinched at the memory. "You're different from the others. Special. Special enough to let go." She met his gaze, and for the first time, Cashin saw conflict in her eyes. "It's not that simple. The compatibility program, it's bigger than any one person. What is it exactly? What are you trying to achieve?" Zava hesitated, then moved closer. "The Etherists believe that humanity has untapped potential. Your species possesses emotional depths that we've lost over millennia of evolution. We're trying to understand it, to harness it. By experimenting on us?" By turning us into weapons. Not weapons, Zava insisted. Tools for understanding, for bridging the gap between our species. And what happens when you've learned everything you need? When you've extracted every useful trait? Again, Zava fell silent. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. During a routine compatibility test, Cashin was placed in what they called the resonance chamber, a cylindrical pod designed to measure his energy output. As the machine powered up, he felt the familiar warmth building within him. But this time, something went wrong. The energy didn't just flow through him, it erupted. Cashin screamed as power surged from his body, overloading the chamber systems. Sparks flew, equipment shorted out, and the pod's containment field collapsed. "Shut it down." Dr. Zener's voice boomed over the intercom. "Shut it down now." Technicians scrambled at their consoles, but the damage was done. The chamber exploded outward, sending shrapnel across the lab. Through the smoke and chaos, Cashin stood unharmed, energy crackling around him like a living shield. "Impossible," Dr. Zener breathed, stepping closer despite the danger. "The readings, they're off the scale." Cashin felt the power coursing through him, responding to his will. For the first time since his captivity began, he felt in control. He fixed his gaze on Dr. Zener, who suddenly seemed much less intimidating. "What did you do to me?" Cashin asked, his voice resonating with newfound power. Before Dr. Zener could respond, Zava intervened. "Administer the suppressant," she called out, already moving toward Cashin with a hypodermic injector. But as she approached, something passed between them, a moment of understanding. Instead of the standard dose that would have rendered him unconscious, she adjusted the setting, giving him just enough to dampen the energy without knocking him out. As the world stopped spinning and his power ebbed to manageable levels, Cashin caught Zava's eye. She just defied her superior, protected him. The question was, why? "Take him back to his cell," Dr. Zener ordered, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. "Double the guard. I want a full analysis of what just happened." As guards led him away, Cashin managed to whisper to Zava, "Thank you." Her expression remained neutral, but her fingers brushed his arm briefly as he passed, a gesture that didn't go unnoticed. That night, as Cashin lay in his cell, he heard the soft hiss of his door opening. Zava slipped inside, her black eyes gleaming in the dim light. "We don't have much time," she whispered urgently. "Dr. Zener is planning to extract your genetic material tomorrow. They want to clone you, create an army of subjects with your compatibility levels." "Why are you telling me this?" Cashin asked, sitting up. Zava's composure cracked. "Because what they're doing is wrong. I joined this program to advance science, to bridge our species, not to create weapons." She pulled out a data chip. "This contains everything. The true purpose of the compatibility program, the experiments, everything. I need your help to expose it." "My help? I'm a prisoner here." "Not for long." Zava's hand found his in the darkness. "I've been planning this for weeks. There's a resistance movement within the Etherists, those who oppose these experiments. They're waiting for a signal." Cashin felt the warmth stir within him again, but this time it wasn't from the augmentation. "Why me? Why now?" "Because you're the key," Zava said. "Your unique reaction to the compatibility protocol proves that Dr. Zener's methods are flawed. With you as evidence, we can shut down the program." "And what happens to you when this is over?" Zava looked away. "That doesn't matter. What matters is stopping this before more lives are destroyed." In that moment, Cashin made his decision. "Tell me what I need to do." For the next hour, they plotted in hushed whispers. Zava outlined the facility's layout, security protocols, and the location of evidence that could bring the entire program crashing down. As dawn approached, she prepared to leave. "Wait," Cashin said, catching her arm. "Why did you really help me that day in the chamber?" Zava turned back, and for the first time, smiled. "Because I saw something in you, not just compatibility with our technology, but compatibility with our beliefs, our hopes for a better future." Before Cashin could respond, she was gone, leaving him with the data chip and a head full of plans. The escape attempt began the following evening. As Zava had predicted, Dr. Zener came for him personally, flanked by armed guards. Today, Subject 17, you become the foundation of a new era, Dr. Zener announced grandly. Cashin played along, allowing himself to be led to the extraction lab. But as they passed through a service corridor, he made his move. The energy within him surged, guided by his newfound control. Guards flew backward, their weapons clattering uselessly to the floor. Alarms blared as Cashin ran, following the route Zava had shown him. He ducked through maintenance tunnels, avoiding patrols, making his way to the central server room where the evidence was stored. Zava was waiting for him, a blaster in hand. "You made it," she said with relief. "We need to hurry." Together, they worked to download the facility's classified files. But as the transfer completed, the door burst open. Dr. Zener stood there, his own weapon trained on them. "I should have known," he snarled at Zava. "Your sympathy for these creatures always was your weakness." "They're not creatures," Zava shot back. "They're people, and what you're doing is genocide." Dr. Zener laughed coldly. "Genocide? We're creating the next step in evolution. Subject 17 here is proof of that." Cashin felt the power building within him, stronger than ever. "I'm proof that your methods are wrong. That forcing change only leads to destruction." "Naive boy," Dr. Zener sneered. "You have no idea what you truly are." What happened next occurred in a blur. Dr. Zener fired, but Cashin's energy shield activated instinctively. The blast ricocheted, striking equipment around them. Zava returned fire, forcing Dr. Zener to take cover. "Go," she shouted to Cashin. "Get the data to the Resistance." "Not without you." Their eyes met across the chaos, and Cashin saw the determination in her gaze. This was always how it was going to end. "Go." But Cashin refused to leave her. Drawing on every ounce of power within him, he created a massive energy pulse that temporarily disabled everyone in the room, except Zava, whom he somehow instinctively shielded. "Come on," he said, grabbing her hand. "We're both getting out of here." They fled through the facility, fighting their way past guards and automated defenses. Cashin's powers grew stronger with each confrontation, adapting to each new threat. Zava provided cover fire, her knowledge of Aetherist technology proving invaluable. Finally, they reached the hangar where a small ship waited, their escape route arranged by the Resistance. As they boarded, Dr. Zener appeared one last time, rage distorting his features. "You'll never escape," he screamed. "The Council will hunt you across the galaxy." "Let them try," Cashin replied, his power crackling around him like a corona. Zava piloted the ship out of the hangar, evading pursuit craft with skilled maneuvers. As they broke through the planet's atmosphere, Cashin finally allowed himself to relax. "We did it," he breathed. "The beginning of the end," Zava corrected. "Now we expose them to the galaxy." They arrived at a hidden Resistance base on a remote moon. There, surrounded by Aetherist rebels and freed test subjects, they broadcast their evidence across all channels. The footage of failed experiments, the documents detailing forced evolutionary protocols, the testimonies of survivors, it all painted a damning picture of the compatibility program. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Protests erupted across Aetherist-controlled worlds. The Council was forced to launch an investigation, and Dr. Zener disappeared, his whereabouts unknown. In the weeks that followed, the compatibility program was officially discontinued. Facilities were shut down, subjects were freed, and those responsible faced justice. Throughout it all, Cashin remained a symbol of survival and resistance. But the changes within him continued. The energy that had been forced into his body had become a part of him, growing stronger each day. Sometimes it frightened him, the power he now wielded. But Zava was always there, helping him understand and control it. "It's still expanding," he told her one night as they watched the stars from the Resistance base. "The power, the abilities, they keep evolving." Zava took his hand, intertwining her fingers with his. "But now you control it. Now it serves you, not them." Cashin turned to her, seeing not the scientist who had once been his captor, but the woman who had risked everything to save him. "What happens now?" "Now," Zava smiled. "Now we build something better. A true partnership between our species, based on trust and understanding, not experimentation and control. As they stood together, Cassian felt the energy within him pulse in harmony with Zava's presence. Perhaps this was what the compatibility program had truly uncovered. Not the ability to create weapons or tools, but the potential for genuine connection between species. The future stretched out before them, uncertain but full of possibility. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Human and Aetheris, no longer subject and scientist, but partners in every sense of the word. It's expanding, Cassian murmured, pulling Zava closer. But now we control it. And in that moment, with the stars as their witness, they began writing a new chapter in the history of both their species. One built not on force and fear, but on choice and hope. The legacy of Subject 17 would not be one of experimentation and suffering, but of liberation and unity. And though Dr. Zener still lurked somewhere in the shadows, plotting his return, Cassian knew they were ready for whatever came next. After all, the power within him was still growing, still expanding. But now it served a greater purpose, not as a weapon of control, but as a bridge between worlds, a testament to what could be achieved when beings chose cooperation over domination. As the first rays of an alien sun broke over the horizon, Cassian and Zava stood hand in hand, ready to face whatever the future held. The experiment that had begun in chains had ended in freedom, and the expansion that had once been his curse had become his greatest gift. For in learning to control the power within, Cassian had discovered something far more valuable: the ability to forge connections that transcended species, to build bridges where others had built walls, and to find love in the most unlikely of places. The compatibility program had sought to create the perfect subject. Instead, it had created something far more powerful, a symbol of hope for a galaxy in need of healing. And as Cassian felt Zava's fingers tighten around his own, he knew that this was only the beginning of their story. The expansion within him had brought them together, and together they would reshape the future. Some bonds, after all, were stronger than any experiment could ever forge.